Once back in the underground caves they all called home, Sango and Kilala led INUYASHA and Kagome into the palace kitchen, where Kagome noticed a cute little fox demon that looked about the same age as Bunza, cooking nearly every food under the sun of the country. "Hey, Shippo, what's for dinner?" INUYASHA called out to the little fox. Shippo looked up from a big fish he was cutting and smiled. "Oh, INUYASHA, Sango, Kilala! What did that idiot Koga want?" he asked as he took a slice of the fish remains and began to sprinkle some spices onto them. "The usual, our land, but it will be taken care of soon," Sango replied as she patted Kilala on the head, making the neko purr in response. "Well, I'll bet INUYASHA here will scare him away in the end, and sushi's for dinner tonight," the little fox replied to the dog god's previous question. "I've never had sushi before," Kagome said aloud. Shippo turned to face her, his shocked expression now plaguing his face. "Did I say something wrong?" she trailed off, hoping her words did not offend the little demon boy. But he simply smiled and let out a little chuckle. "Oh no, I'm just surprised. You're really pretty." "Surprised? Hey, you're really pretty. I'll tell you what, I'll make you my best sushi for dinner tonight, since you've never had any before," Shippo said kindly. "Oh, thank you. Kagome started, trying to introduce herself, but Shippo cut her off. "You're Lady Kagome of the Dog God, and the most beautiful woman who has ever existed," the little fox squeaked. Famiko blushed heavily at his words. Thank you," she stuttered. "Hey, Shippo, you don't think I'm pretty?" Sango stated, crossing her arms. Shippo's eyes widened. I didn't mean it like that, Sango. It's just been a while since I've seen a woman as pretty as Kagome," the little fox said quickly, only to flinch when he realized what he just said. "Well, if you ask me, Sango is the most beautiful woman who has ever existed in my sense of knowledge," the Moroku said upon entering the kitchen with Bunza on his shoulder. "Kagome!" the little lynx child shouted as he jumped into Kagome's arms, giving the biggest hug he could muster, after rushing past Sango, who blushed as red as a tomato from Moroku's words. "Hey, Bunza, it's good to see you," Kagome said, giving Bunza a hug back. "I take it we haven't heard the last of Koga?" Moroku said seriously, approaching INUYASHA, who sighed heavily. "No. He promised to finish all of us off and take our land. We'll have a strategy meeting tonight after dinner," the dog god proclaimed. "Very well," the monk replied. "Anyway, Shippo, is there anything we can do to help with?" INUYASHA questioned, turning to the young fox, who only shook his head. "Not from you, INUYASHA. With all due respect, as the dog god, you can do many things, but cooking is not one of them. And as someone who has tried your cooking, even if it was just once, that says something." "Oh, come on, I'm not that bad," INUYASHA insisted with a frown, but Shippo only stared at him skeptically. "Okay, so you passed out when you tried my stew that one time. I can still help," the dog god insisted. What are we talking about?" Kagome asked, raising an eyebrow as she still held Bunza in her arms. "Oh yeah, that. INUYASHA tried to help Shippo make dinner, but he ended up making this really gross stew that made you want to throw up the minute you smelled it. And Shippo was stupid enough to try it, and it was out for at least 2 hours. Bunza whispered to her. "Hey, I heard that," INUYASHA exclaimed, turning to the two. "Well, if INUYASHA here can't help, I could help you, Shippo. I'm pretty good when it comes to cooking," Kagome offered. The little fox thought for a moment before responding. "Well, anyone is better than INUYASHA, so sure," he said with a smile, ignoring the death glare he was getting from the dog god. Kagome was a great cook, to say the least. When the time came for everyone to eat their evening meal, everyone in the castle gathered in the dining hall, and the moment Kagome's stew touched their lips, they all felt as if they were eating liquid gold, so much so that hardly anyone touched Shippo's sushi. "Kagome, you're such a great cook. This is delicious," Sango stated as she looked towards Kagome at the head of the table, where she sat with INUYASHA. "Yeah, as much as I hate to admit it, you're a better cook than me," Shippo stated, taking a bite of his share of sushi. "INUYASHA could learn a thing or two from you that he obviously couldn't learn from me," the little fox then added, making the dog god frown. Kagome smiled and blushed at the compliments she was receiving. "Thank you. I've been cooking most of my life. But it makes me happy to hear more than just Kaede giving me compliments on it." Her face turned to a sad frown, but she tried to hide it. Upon hearing his wife say this, INUYASHA wrapped his arm around her shoulders and held her close to him, comforting embrace. Making Kagome let out a soft sigh as she leaned her head onto his shoulder. This feels so nice. Is this what it's like to be held like by your husband? Wait, what the heck did that come from? Kagome thought to herself as heat rose to her cheeks once again. Sorry, did I make you uncomfortable? Inuyasha asked, noticing the blush on his wife's cheeks. No, it's fine, the Miko started, but was cut off by Totosai and his bull approaching them. So, my lord, this must be Lady Kagome. It's nice to meet you, dear. I'm Totosai, the swordsmith demon said kindly. Oh, it's nice to meet you, too, the Miko replied politely. Well, I just wanted to tell you that your stew is excellent, my lord. You are fortunate to be married to such a great cook, Totosai said bluntly, making the dog god blush. But then he smiled. I sure am lucky, he stated, looking into Kagome's eyes, reminding the girl of a happy puppy. Sister! Sister! The young Miko jumped upon hearing Asagi and the other half-demon children rushing over after her as they finished their meals, and jumped onto her. Hi, everyone, Kagome said with a laugh as she hugged Asagi and Shion close to her heart, while Roku and Dai hugged her from behind, and Asagi and Mugi hugged the Miko from the sides. Your stew was so good, I exclaimed with a big smile on her face. Kagome smiled and hugged the little fish girl closer. I can teach you how to make it sometime if you'd like, the Miko offered. Can you teach me too? Mugi said eagerly. Me too, Asagi added, raising her hand. We'll be your taste testers, the twins stated at the same time. I want to cook with you too, Shion exclaimed. Come on, guys, give Lady Kagome some space. And anyway, it's time for you all to head to bed. Now that you've finished eating, a new voice chimed in. Kagome then saw a boy about 11 years old with short black hair and black and brown colored ponytail with a chained scythe on his side. He wore a demon slayer armor like Sango's, only his was yellow and black. Hello, my lady. I am Kohaku, Sango's younger brother, and the trainer of these little troublemakers, the boy said, nodding his head to the half-demon children around Kagome. I train them to defend themselves and how to be brave. You name it, Kohaku stated boldly. Kohaku here acts tough, but he used to wet his bed all the time until he was about 8, Sango said, suddenly joining the conversation, but was cut off by Kohaku telling her to be quiet with a look of betrayal on his face. Kagome had to giggle at the sibling bickering going between Sango and her brother. After dinner was finished, Kagome went to help Kohaku take Asagi and the other children to bed. I'm not tired. Why do we even have to sleep? I asked with a yawn as she rubbed her eyes with one of her hands. Kagome smiled patiently as she then took the little half-demon girl in her arms. Because sleep is healthy. It gives you energy for when you wake up, and it makes you feel so warm and cozy, the Miko said, giving little Ai another warm hug, to which the little girl took the opportunity to snuggle closer to the Miko and drift off into a peaceful slumber. Wow, how did you do that? Kohaku questioned astonishingly. Do what? Asked the Miko. It usually takes forever to get Ai to sleep, and suddenly there she is, falling asleep on your shoulder just from your wise and caring words. The young demon slayer whispered so as not to wake up the little fish girl. Sister, will you stay with us until we fall asleep? Shion asked in a drowsy voice as he gently tugged on Kagome's sleeve. Yeah, please, Dai begged, grabbing Kagome's other sleeve. Kagome couldn't help but smile at all 5 of the other children, looking at her with pleading, tired eyes, yearned for sleep in her company. Of course. Inuyasha couldn't believe his eyes. He had just finished helping Shippo clean up after dinner, which the dog god insisted on, since the little fox wouldn't let him help with cooking earlier. And when he went to find Kagome and wish Asagi and the other children good night, he only found the most peaceful scene imaginable. All 6 children in their shared bedroom were sleeping around the Miko, who was fast asleep herself with Ai in her arms, as if the little fish girl was her own child. After a moment of silence, the dog god let out a calm sigh as he walked over to the children and Kagome and caressed the Miko's cheek softly, to which Kagome unconsciously leaned into the dog god's gentle touch while letting out a relaxed sigh. She'd make a great mother, he thought to himself sadly, knowing that all depended if Kagome would ever love him in return. But he knew very well his chances of that happening were not likely. Kagome, you're so amazing. You're kind, intelligent, gentle, understanding of others. You're beautiful within and out. That's why I love you. I love you so much, Kagome. I only wish that you could understand how much I need you. I want to protect and cherish you, like a good husband should. I wish I had the courage to ask you to be with me like a man instead of just kidnapping you. Inuyasha stopped when he turned to look at Kagome again, only to see that she was looking at him with realization and shock written all over her face. Inuyasha, was all she could say in a soft voice. The dog couldn't tell if she was just very shocked or just trying not to wake the 6 sleeping children around them. Perhaps a bit of each. But either way, he knew she had heard everything he had just said. I thought you were asleep, was all Inuyasha could stutter and blush, as red as his kimono. Kagome slowly placed Ai beside Asagi and sat in front of her husband. Did you really mean all of that? She asked bashfully as a blush spread on her own cheeks. Yes, I did, the Doggo replied immediately. I won't deny I was afraid you would reject me because of a half-demon blood I carry. I thought you would be disgusted, even more so if I asked you to be my wife directly. I mean, all my life, my parents warned me that half-demons are hated by both humans and full demons. So I assumed you'd hate me too. But I couldn't help it. Kagome, I love you. I love you more than anything and anyone in the world. I was just so afraid you'd hate me at first sight because of my blood. The Doggo had stopped when Kagome placed both of her hands on his cheeks, forcing him to look at her. When you first brought me here, I think I did hate you. But over time I realized you weren't evil, cruel, or even selfish. You were lonely, just like me. I won't deny that you did marry me, but what you did to marry me was wrong. It really was. But after spending time with you and everyone here, I feel more at home than I ever did in the village above. Maybe I'm beginning to fall for you, but I want time. Time to understand these feelings before anything else between us happens. Kagome trailed off nervously. Inuyasha gave his wife a tender smile, gently holding her hand, taking her hands off of his cheeks and holding them close to his heart. I understand. I want you to be happy, and one day I hope you'll love me as much as I love you, he said in a soft voice, making Kagome blush. The two were interrupted when there was a small knock at the sliding door. Come in, Inuyasha called softly, not to wake up the 6 children around him and his wife. Moroku appeared in the doorway next to Sango and a small Kilala. My lord, everyone is ready for the meeting to start, Sango stated, almost a shuddering voice, all while trying her hardest not to look at Moroku, which Kagome noticed. What on earth happened between those two now? She wondered to herself.